Well, good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. We have a lot to cover tonight. Thank you for coming, and I want to welcome you all here. My name's Diane Marlin. I'm the mayor of Urbana, and I want to welcome you to this World Cafe, which is a training session for the 10 shared principles. These principles were affirmed by the Urbana City Council back in June, and workshop is a follow-up on that to discuss really implementation and implications for the city. So the City of Urbana is joining with the NAACP of Champaign County, and I'm joined here with its president, Ms. Minnie Pearson. We're at a crossroads in history. Here in the City of Urbana, like cities all over the country, we are beginning to re-envisioning public safety and policing, and we are committed to making the reforms necessary as we move forward into the future. So the 10 shared principles offer an excellent framework to guide our policies, practices, and procedures going forward. Tonight, the facilitators of this workshop will be Robert Moore, who's the chair of the NAACP Illinois Criminal Justice Committee, and Ed Wojcicki, who's the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, and they'll be describing the principles in more detail later. I want to welcome special guests, Teresa Haley, who's the president of the NAACP, the Illinois State Conference, and Austin Randolph, who's the first vice president of the NAACP. We have elected officials here from the Urbana City Council, including Mary Alice Wu, Sharice Hersey, Dennis Roberts, Bill Brown, Bill Colebrook, and I'm expecting Jared Miller, if he hasn't arrived yet. Council member Julie Laut had expected to be here, but she's waiting results from a COVID test, and out of an abundance of caution, decided to remain home. And we thank her for caring. We also have 10 sworn officers from the Urbana Police Department. This includes the command staff and the patrol officers. And I want to thank each and every one of them for participating as well. Thank you to the community members here, and a special welcome to some young men from Urbana High School. They're members of the Self-Made Kings. We have Cameron Williams, right there, and Mr. Andrew Bird. And coordinator of the Self-Made Kings is Mr. Lamont Peppers, and he's back there. So I especially want to thank you for coming. I'm going to turn this microphone over to Ms. Pearson from the NAACP.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Minnie Pearson, NAACP Champaign County branch, and I ditto everything Mayor said and thank her for her hard work in getting this together. She worked tirelessly working this and getting it out. She was very concerned about your safety. And so the things that she's mentioned earlier, I ditto that as well, but I just kind of want to make a couple of points that everybody here this evening has an important job to do. We expect open and clear communications, which is crucial to this event. The changes that we are seeking requires groups of people just like yourselves who will work in a coordinated, unified way. The work that we will do here this evening will require leaders with different knowledge, expertise, and experiences at each table. So we thank you again for coming out because we need your input on everything that we're going to do here. This is going to be a powerful learning experience for all of us, and whatever we decide here this evening will help our community to heal and build trust and move forward. So make sure that we understand that if there is a difference of opinion, we need to work it out for the betterment of our community, because if we don't, then the status quo wins, and we don't want that. We are better than that. So thank you again, Mayor, and the NAACP people that are here this evening. And I'm going to turn it over to my brother by another mother, Chief Seraphin.
I was told I could take the mask down just for a moment to share a couple of words. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who took time out to be here tonight. I also wanted to mention that thankfully we had fantastic weather. As I was walking to some of the tables, I was afraid it was going to be 110 and would be cooking in this tent, or it'd be 45 with rain sliding in. So I'm ecstatic with this weather. Several years ago, I went to a police chiefs conference, and there was some talking and some discussions and tables and things like this, and it had to do with after Ferguson and moving forward. And they asked one of the chiefs one of the important chiefs up on the table there across the front, and they were talking about how do you move forward? And unfortunately, I don't remember the man's name, but it was from someplace in New Jersey. And he said, "We move forward one contact at a time." And so tonight, I'm going to ask all of us to have one contact at a time at these tables, and hopefully using that sort of mantra, we can move forward. So thank you all for being here. And Mayor, I have no idea who I'm supposed to hand the microphone to. Teresa Haley.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Thank you all so much for being here. Mayor, girl power. We really appreciate you and the things that you do. My name is Teresa Haley. I am the Springfield branch president, and if something you need to know about the NAACP is that it was started and founded because of the 1908 race riots in my hometown of Springfield. As we travel around the country, a lot of people don't realize that. They think it's just Springfield. So we want to make sure that we put that out there first. Second of all, I am the first female president and the youngest female state president, and I am my third term. So God is a good God, and he's keeping me, and he's keeping all of us as we continue to do his work. And I do believe in my heart that we are doing his work tonight. It's not about black folks, it's not about white folks. It's about all folks coming together, caring for each other, sharing, and living together. And so the NAACP is so proud of the partnership that we've had with the Illinois Chiefs of Police. But we're more excited about partnering with you, those of you who wear the blue. My uncles are state troopers. My uncles are neighborhood police officers. Let's give it up for officers in blue. I am so pleased to continue to work with these men, and sometimes they can be male chauvinists. You see, they don't have me helping them tonight, but that's okay. I got the mic right now. So Bob Moore is my criminal justice chair, and when I became the state president, it was important for me to surround myself with people who believe and do the work. When you talk about criminal justice, it is so serious. And so I chose someone, I prayed about it, and I asked God to lead me, and Bob is my church member. I've known Bob for over 30-something years. Bob is a retired U.S. Marshal. Let's give it up to him for that. Bob is a retired police chief from Jackson, Mississippi. Give it up for that. Bob is a former state police officer. Let's give it up for that. So Bob has a lot of accolades. He usually talks about it himself, but I'm stealing his thunder tonight so we can move ahead. And this is my uncle from another mother right here, Ed. His daughter and I are really, really good friends. We work together, and we've worked together for many years. I love him, I trust him, and I respect him. And when you're working, trying to build communities between the black and the white communities especially, you have to have people that you trust. We have to live together. We have to work together. And my new friend Joe back there, he was going to be a priest, but he's a police officer. So he stuck with the P's. Give it up for Joe back there at that table, you guys. But as we get started tonight, I just want to say I am so grateful to be here. I am missing choir rehearsal. Sunday is our 125th church anniversary. So they're wondering if I'm going to sing. So I told them I would come to rehearsal on Saturday, which I've been trying to avoid those Saturday rehearsals. You don't have to go on Saturday if you show up on Thursday. So pray for me as I pray for myself, because my pastor's probably looking at me. But let's continue to do the work. Let's continue to work together, and let's make a difference for all of us. Thank you all so much.
That's my boss. And I am so elated to be here with you all. I have had the pleasure of working with the mayor and the city council and the police chief by Zoom conferences, and So we've been on the ground floor with you as we came through this process of adopting.
I apologize. I brought along our third vice president for the state. She is a recent college graduate. Diamond Jackson, please stand up and be recognized. It is so important that we get young people involved. And you all, I said she is the third vice president for the Illinois State Conference of the NAACP. When I came into this position, being the first female and the youngest person to hold that position, I said, how do we get more young people involved? We start by bringing them to the table, not just talking about them on the menu. So every time Bob and I travel around the state and we're talking about the 10 principles, as often as Diamond can be with us, she's with us. And young people have their own voice, and they're not the future, they are the present. So thank you, Diamond, for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also, Mr. Austin Randolph, he's a former deputy director of the Department of Correction. So we have brought some unusual skills to the NAACP, executive skills that we brought from the state. And so we're just pleased to be able to work with Teresa and all of the Illinois branches across the state. Now, one of the things that, on the housekeeping note here, I see that, Mayor, I don't know if anybody else is coming for the tables, but if not, we like to move some people around and so that we can have a little bit more balance. I have a table back here in the middle that I see no police officers at. That's mine. That's yours? Want me to go? Okay, would you go? I appreciate that. Now, there's, I see on the corner over here, all the way on the right corner, there's only one person at that table. So would somebody volunteer to leave a table where there's more than one to go over to that table? Would somebody do that? You there? Okay, well, very good. Well, that's all balanced out then. Wow. Well, Teresa told you all about me. She forgot to tell you that I was a deputy sheriff in Rockford, Illinois, too. And I was also a deputy chief of police in Savannah, Georgia. I headed up the Criminal Investigation Bureau. So I know a little bit about law enforcement, just a little bit. I probably got about 50 years in the whole process. I'm also an author. I like to write. I like to write about things that I do. I like to write about changing policies. And what we're going to do tonight, Ed is going to carry the load tonight in terms of the tabletop exercise of which you all are going to do. The 10 principles, I'm going to run through them, a few of them real quick here. But number one, we value life. And that's something that we in Illinois, we value life. We really do. And we, even though you at a table, you got them on the table. Yeah, you have them on your table, and you have a number on your table, which Ed is going to talk about, and he'll tell you what he wants you to do with those. But we value life. All persons should be treated with dignity and respect. We know that, but we don't necessarily do that. We reject discrimination, and we endorse the 4 pillars of the community policing, the 21st Century Policing Act. So you all will be looking at all these things, and you will be helping us as we move down the road to the next turn that we will be dealing with this. And what we're doing, we are, thank you, Mayor. We are gathering data. We are gathering data from you all so that we can improve upon what we do. Ed and I have been traveling the state here now for the last 3 years. He and I have gotten to know each other. We ride together. And that's what we want you all to do. We pick the phones up and talk to each other. We email each other. We go to lunch with each other. We go to lunch with each other. Y'all hear that? We do. We pick the phone up. We have a problem, we work through it. We work through the problem if we have a problem. And that's what we want you to do. That's what these principles are a set of behaviors. If you look up the definition of principles, you'll see that you have adopted a set of 10 principles which your police department has agreed to abide by. These table on your table, the city council approved these 10 principles. And you can now measure what your police department is doing. Are they treating you with dignity and respect? You will know. Are they being discriminated against you? Are they using de-escalation tactics when they meet in the street with you? That's what they said they're going to do. So that's what we expect you to do because you've adopted those principles. Now, it is your turn to help us, to give us your thoughts in terms of how to best implement all these principles that which we have. At this time, we're going to ask Ed. I did not. I think I'm going to let them read them tonight. I'm going to cut down. I'm kind of getting used to not talking long. I've done this so many times that sometimes I go an hour, sometimes I go 2 hours. But I never have anybody walk out on me because they told I'm a police officer. You better not walk. I'm kidding. But just a few more important ones. What we found that citizens want relationships with their police department. They want to have a positive relationship with you. That's what we've heard all across the state. And they want to be treated with dignity and respect. Two things out of all these principles. They want to have a relationship. As I told you, the relationship that Ed and I have developed over the years, I value that. I value that relationship. And we want you to value, because you are now telling every citizen in Urbana what you're going to do, what behaviors you're going to do. You're telling them how you are going to treat them when you have an encounter with them. And we're proud of that. We're proud that you have made that commitment. We're proud that you are going to live up to that commitment. We're proud that you're going to be accountable. You are going to be accountable to your own self for carrying out these principles. Thank you. Ed?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Bob. My name is Ed Wojcicki. I'm the executive director of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, and I'm going to run you through the evening for the next hour and a half or so. And but we've done, this is our 22nd event that we've done since 2016. Always these kinds of conversations, a little bit different in some places, but all. And let me tell you, the biggest single thing that I have heard and learned, and I've heard it so often that I want to repeat it. What I've heard is this, is that young black males in particular are afraid of the police. They're afraid of what might happen if a police officer pulls them over. Not that other people aren't afraid, not that there aren't issues. And one of our black chiefs says to me, he's taught me, he said, Ed, every young black male under the age of 18 has had a bad experience with police. And so I test that out, and I say, is that true? And I don't ask for a raise of hands, but I just ask. And when I come to these things, you might not notice, but I'm white, and I say, I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe that, but I've heard it often enough that I think, well, it must be true. And so we are here tonight, and thank you, Mayor, Chief Seraphin, and everybody else for having us. We are here, we go, everywhere we go is for one purpose, to build trust. And as the chief said, one contact at a time, and I say one conversation at a time. And that's what we're about. One of the things that we've learned from all the sessions we've done is that the police hold themselves accountable. Now, you might not believe that if you're not a police officer, but they do. They hold themselves accountable personally, and they hold one another accountable, and members of the community want the police to be accountable. And I think we're a lot farther along there than you might understand, and you'll hear some of that around the conversations tonight. The other thing that I want to say, Teresa mentioned my daughter. And so those of you who are elected officials, and I know there's a number of you here, thank you for your service. You put your name on the ballot. People don't understand what that means. My daughter used to be a state representative. And so if you ever aspire to be a state representative or senator, talk to me first. That's all I'll say about that. All right? First, here's what we're gonna do tonight. We're gonna have 3 or 4 conversations around your table. We'll have a little reporting out from your table, and when we get to the third conversation, we're gonna ask you to start writing some things down, and we'll want you to pick out a scribe from your table, and we're gonna collect the purple sheets and the yellow sheets. And we're going to compile everything that we've learned, and we're going to send it back to the mayor, the chief, and the NAACP here for further discussion. The wisdom's in this room. We're not bringing you the wisdom. The wisdom's already here. So the first thing that I want you to do is just, and on the back of your agenda, it kind of gives the rundown of what we're going to do. Just for about 5 minutes, introduce yourselves to one another, and I want you to tell one another this. What did you leave at the door in order to be here tonight? Teresa said she left at the door choir practice. I'll tell you what I left at the door. My wife and I are currently tuck pointing our house, so I got out of tuck pointing in order to be here tonight. So 5 minutes. Tell people who you are and tell them what you left at the door. Go. All right. Can I have your attention again? The conversation has begun, and that's a good thing. So thank you for that. We're going to move right into the meat of the evening now, and on each of your tables there's a number in the middle, somewhere between 1 and 10 at each table, and the reason that we do that is there's a document on your table, if you haven't seen it yet, that says the affirmation of shared principles. And if you turn over a page, it lists the principles from 1 to 10. We wanted you to make sure and have that in front of you, and then also to take home with you. And so we've assigned each one of the 10 principles to each table. And we do that because we want to have a conversation in your community around all of the principles. And you don't have to write anything down on this next round. It's windy tonight. We'll get to that when we get to the third question. But take a look at the principle that's assigned to your table. And on the back of your agenda is the question that we'd like you to talk about. So the question is this: thinking about the principle assigned to your table, describe to one another how you have experienced this principle in your life and in your community. And now we have law enforcement and community members at each table, so talk about it from your own perspective. What's it been like? Have you as a police officer always been treated with dignity and respect by every person you see? I would suspect the answer is no, but can't say that for sure. As a community member, what's been your interaction with each other and with law enforcement? This is just to get a good conversation started around your table. Be candid and honest and listen to one another. And you've got about 15 minutes to have this conversation around your table. I'll call us back together and we'll get a few volunteers to talk about what you talked about at your table. So describe to one another how you have experienced this principle in your life and in your community. 15 minutes, go. All right, all right. Thank you. Here's one of the things I do find at these events is that the more they go on, the less you want to stop talking and at your tables, and that's a good thing. But anybody want to share something that they heard or said at their table? Anybody? Anybody want to share? This just gentleman here. Oh boy.
Yeah, we had a very good discussion. One of the nice things that I heard was that, there's diversity even in your own family. If you look at your brothers and sisters, your aunts and uncles, you're going to find that everybody has a very different personality, comes at questions with a different viewpoint, and you have to deal with it. And that's like the answer, or that you do that as an answer to lead you forward to interacting with people in the community who are different. Oh yeah, okay, we're on number 9, which is, I didn't tell you that, which is diversity in the police department, and what is the importance of diversity. Um, also, I was corrected. I shouldn't say African American. I should say Black, because African American limits the range of diversity among the Black community.
It's diaspora.
So okay, and I accept that. And some of the features that we talked about of a police officer's response to people is to remember humility in talking to people, to be able to confront the unknown, being consistent in your interest and showing how you are interested with people. And this all takes a high degree of self-awareness. So when you approach somebody in the community and you're in an official capacity, you have to bring that self-awareness and be very alert and receptive. And that's what I'd like to share.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all understand me?
Yes.
So I don't have to keep taking this off and putting it back on. We actually had Principle 7. We believe that developing strong ongoing relationships between law enforcement and communities of color at the leadership level and street level will be keys to diminishing and eliminating racial tension. I think one of the important things that was initially first brought out by the Christian was the issue of trust. And that, we want to see trust increased. We want to see both sides practice, engage, and uphold the trust. One of the things I shared was just that I felt that at the leadership level, both sides do an amazing job. I feel like the police leadership, the officers engage with our leaders very well. It is the common person who is having the issues. There's the lack of trust that the Christians share. There's a fear. Perception has changed. When I was a little kid, to meet a police officer, that was like a highlight of your week. You would go and you would brag about, man, I met a police officer and he let me wear his badge and do this. Whereas now, our young men of color do everything possible to avoid it. And so one of the things we just kind of talk about is just, hopefully as we move forward that our police officers will have a chance to engage with our community members in just basic, kind, calm conversation. Where every time I roll up, I'm not rolling up to check you out and just, hey, no, guys, just want to stop and say hello. We talked about, in the midst of the tone and the unfortunate incidents happens, we've seen an increase in kind of video clips and memes of police officers engaging with our young people very well, playing basketball and dance competitions, little karate going on, and, bringing kids water on hot days. Those, I think, are the messages that we want for these young men who are here with me, who are so vital right now to our community at their age. And so that's just kind of what we talked about. Thank you.
Let me tell you something else that always happens at these things. Always the first people to speak for a long time are the people not wearing police uniforms. So, I need one volunteer for somebody wearing a police uniform. All right, here we go.
Okay, we were at number 4. We endorsed the 6 pillars in the report of the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. The first pillar is to build trust and rebuild trust through procedural justice, transparency, accountability, honest recognition, and past and present obstacles. I think the primary conversation we had, and ladies, correct me if I'm wrong here, was perception. And recognizing that as law enforcement, when we go into a situation, the individuals we're talking to have a perception of what we're doing, what we're going to do, as much as we then have a perception of the individual. And I think there's many that said, you know, as a police officer, I may have a bad day, but when I go to the next person, I've got to remember that that's not the same person I just dealt with. And so we need to keep the perception of those around us and make sure that we're not judging the perception, but that we're going into reality.
All right. All right, for your next table conversation, this is where I say emphatically, we don't come here with solutions. The wisdom is in the room, and the solutions are in the room, the solutions to whatever questions you have and whatever concerns you have. So, what we really want you to do is to identify some concrete ways that the principle at your table could be implemented and enhanced in your department and in your community. Your department, in this case, of course, is the Urbana Police Department. For everybody, how could this be implemented in your community in a way that would make your community better? 20 minutes, go. And write them down on your yellow sheet. Okay, let's take a break from our conversation. What ideas have you come up with? Who wants to share an idea? We're going to collect them all and we're going to compile them for you, but some people always come to these events wanting to say something. And so who wants to share one of your ideas? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Ashanti. Table 5. Hey, Karen. We have 5, and our principal was procedural justice, fairness, voice, transparency, and impartiality. And through our discussion, when we talked about concrete ways to do that, this may sound appalling to some people in this office, but I absolutely do not think you should defund the police. I in fact think they need more funding, and we're blessed to have like a psychologist here. So we talked about having more training. That police officers, Matt was saying, they're called to things that they aren't trained to deal with. They have never had this experience, and just that fear of that experience, that uncertainty of that experience can cause them to react harshly and deal with the consequences of a further escalated situation. So one of our commitments was continue to fund the police and give them more education, give them more training, give them the opportunity to make themselves better. I'm a registered nurse, and I had to get a year's worth of prereqs, 2 years for the nursing degree, and I'm still expected to get a bachelor's in addition to having another bachelor's. But a police officer in America has been taught that's job stability, that's a good trade, you're doing great for your community and for your country, but they are not given the educational resources and background that they need to succeed in these confrontational situations. So I was thinking, instead of defunding the police, we give them more diversified education so that maybe they can question their biases.
Chief, you have any objection to more funding?
Not at all.
All right. Who else has something to offer here?
The chief does. The chief, let me just make a statement.
This gentleman.
Quick statement. I just want to say that we don't want to get confused
with the defunding the police. So let's be clear. They're not talking about defunding the police. We are talking about shifting money to other agencies, like mental health. Police officers need to be called every time there's a mental health problem. So let's not be confused with this. Most people, and I do not like it. I do not like the term defund the police. I don't know who came up with that. I totally disagree with that term. But I do believe that we need to take some of these responsibilities off the police and shift them to other agencies.
Yeah, we agree with that. We agree with that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You want to share something?
Okay, I'm Diamond Jackson, and we are principal number 8, and I'll read it out loud. We believe that law enforcement and community leaders have a mutual responsibility to encourage all citizens to gain a better understanding and knowledge of the law to assist them in their interactions with law enforcement officers. So a few ideas we jotted down was to have more community collaborations and events such as this, the world, more cafe events, outdoor activities, restorative justice, and not being selective of how we are, starting. So basically, starting from a young age, a child young, and teaching about policing, and also debunking myths and stereotypes from both sides, the citizen side and the police side. So we had a conversation, a really good conversation about our experiences within that and our expertise and what we found to be helpful based off what we've experienced and what we've known.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to share what you came up with? I'll get them. I'll get the chief, and then I'll go down there.
By the way, did everybody see the deer? Yeah. I was just a tomato. We were principle number 6, which is endorsing the values in community policing, which includes community partnerships, engagement of police officers with residents outside of interactions specific to the enforcement of laws. And what I like about that is I think that's where I started tonight, is that non-enforcement context. Can we have positive interactions? So with regards to this, we actually discussed as well authentic ways for gathering and connecting. And that's can be kind of difficult sometimes, but how do you do that outreach? And Pastor Janet over here was discussing things like trying to give specific examples for areas where it's reaching out through a church, or through a neighborhood association, or there are things out there, we don't necessarily have to reinvent this and make it quite so complex. And I just thought that that was something we were going to share. We have others, but that sounds like you have other people to talk to.
Thank you. Something I just learned about today, the weekend of October the 9th through the 12th. It's a long weekend. An organization out of Atlanta is putting on something called Faith in Blue. And if you go to faithinblue.org, they're asking organizations and police departments to look into like 21 different things you can do that weekend. So I thought of that when the chief said that. Now I'm gonna come this way, and I've got 2 people in line.
All right, our question, or our principle was number 3. Our principle was principle number 3, and it is we reject discrimination toward any person that is based on race, ethnicity, religion, color, nationality, immigrant status, sexual orientation, gender, disability, or familial status. And the 2 ways that we can implement that, and I can say one of my group members was a police officer on the highway for a number of decades. Is that 26 years? 26 years, but his perspective was really interesting, in that he did a lot of he pulled thousands of people over, made hundreds of arrests, but he noticed behavior and not just race or any of these other factors. And so teaching younger and newer police officers to focus on behaviors and not just race. So that was one thing to implement. And then the second one, and I think this was just mine, is that just talking with both of these police officers as a mother of two little black boys, it was enlightening. I have a certain level of fear for my black boys as I raise them, but talking to them humanized them and gave me a perspective from their perspective that I had never heard. So I think sometimes even just sharing stories and telling what it's like to be a police officer. I hear a lot about what it's like to be a black man and a black woman, but to hear what it's like to be a police officer was really enlightening. So I hope at some point we can do more of that.
Hi, my name is Sharice, and our principle was principle number 1. And principle number 1 says, after I get these foggy glasses off, we value the life of every person and consider life to be the highest of the highest value. And the discussion that we were having so much is that it seems like our young people don't value life. They don't value our life. They don't value their own. And that makes it kind of difficult. So how do you instill that? And so we came up with, we shared 3 ideas. I came up with one more because I heard somebody else talking about, you were talking about your job as a nurse. Education, that is the number 1 thing that we thought. Education, that we have to teach our children that life is short and it's important. And this is something that needs to be taught from early on in life. You can't teach them that after they turn 12 and they start smelling themselves. So it's something that you have to teach them at an early age. 2, who doesn't know what smelling themselves means? Because I know there's some folks going, selling themselves? You mean like a dog? No. Smelling yourself, meaning you think you know everything. And smelling yourself, those pheromones start kicking in. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. So I hope I gave you somewhat of a definition of what that means. Mentorship, because I don't want anything to get lost in translation. Mentorship is very important, and there are several programs in our community to mentor children, and to mentor either gender specific black boys or black girls. Deborah, you've got this. I think it's Deborah McFarland. Dream Girls Association. You have what's it called again? Kings. Self-made kings. Okay. And this is to try to fulfill or to try to fill in where a parent might misstep. And a parent may not think that teaching a child early to respect life, they may not think that that's important because they think that their kids don't understand it anyway. But it's something that you build on. You start when they're little bitty. Baby, don't step on the butterfly. Oh, sweetie, you didn't have to step on that flower, for no reason, okay? And you start early in life so that they will start respecting life early. Teaching kids problem-solving skills. I'm not a parent, never have been, but I've parented other people's children enough that I've noticed, every time they make a mistake, I want to step in and do it for them. And you can't do that with babies, with kids. I say babies, and when I say babies, please don't take it wrong, because as old as I am, you're a baby if you're 30 years old. Okay? So when I say babies, I mean little ones, but I also mean adolescents. They have to learn how to solve their own problems, because if they don't have problems, they'll never learn how to solve them. And so when they have little problems, you've got to let them learn how to solve them. You can guide them, but don't do it for them. That's one of the things. Correct mistakes as children make them. And when I say correct, sometimes that means spanking on that butt. Sometimes it means just putting them in check. They give you the neck, you give the neck back and let them know who's who. Um, Another thing is teaching dignity and respect and love. And um, that could be going to church, but another thing is that happens just at home. You can't talk to your brother like that. Take that back. You know, or who do you think you're talking to if they start talking to you some kind of way? But you correct it. That's and you let them know I love you. You say those words. My parents used to tell me they love me all the time. So it's something that could be very helpful. The last thing that I picked up on was instilling a work ethic early in life. Meaning this, I don't know about anybody else in this room, but when I was 8 years old, I was doing dishes. I was cleaning my own room. I was cleaning everybody's room, really. But, but it was something we worked for an allowance. My brother cut the grass. He took out the garbage. There were certain jobs that he did my parents wouldn't let me do because, well, garbage can be kind of heavy, so no, we don't want you dragging it down the steps and breaking the garbage bag. But these are things that start a good work ethic. And a lot of times, if you teach your child how to do things that they can do on their own, then they'll start thinking of other ways that they can make a penny or a pound. You know, and my brother had the corner on the market of cutting grass in our neighborhood. People called the house. Is the boy that cut the grass there? And it's like, yeah, we knew who they were talking about. But that is something that kept him occupied during his teenage years before he was legally able to work. But his tween years, it kept him occupied, and he made money, and he was proud to do it. So those are the things that we thought would help teach children how to respect life, and not only that, but they not just the lives of other people, but their own, because they start feeling that they are valuable as well. So.
All right. What ideas you come up with?
Well, we're so bright over here. We're in the gifted program. But this is one of the things that I thought was very important to mention. How do you counteract how they see police in the media and what happens in our local communities? And one of the ideas we really expounded upon was programming and highlighting police officers in the community interacting with our children in a positive way in some form of fashion and putting it on the media and say, this is Officer Good Guy, and he has 5 young men, and this is what they've done this month. And every month, somebody somewhere in that community would find some good things to highlight because they see so many things happening on social media. And it almost validates them to feel hostile and combative. So if we can do things like that and humanize our police officers as they are respecting us as human beings and knowing the number 8 and number 10 of the 10 principles, that will go a long way. If they don't know, they believe what they see. And if they are educated and be critical thinkers and think about and help parents say, let's talk about that situation. There's 2 sides to every story. And so they get to see that side of police officers. because to them, you, no matter what, you're the bad guy. You're the bad guy. And we are the target. And we're going to let you know every day, you're racist, you're this, you're that. And it might not have been you, it could have been someone else. But you're going to be blamed for it as well.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else? We haven't heard from this table yet.
All right, I'll try to go quickly. The two biggest talkers at our table refused to talk, actually, is what happened. I better read this correctly here. So ours is value number 2, all persons should be treated with dignity and respect. This is another foundational value. And I'll go quickly. One of the things we talked about was just in interactions, either between community members or to the police, is just teaching them to assume the best first. When we walk in, assuming the best about the officer, assuming the best about the person, whether those are interactions, whether that's walking into a domestic dispute. You gave the example of showing dignity and respect for everybody involved. It's not making assumptions about what that situation is. Andrew, our SFI, he said everyone should be treated the same. And Derek, you had said one bad interaction between community members and police is one too many. How can we stop that? And how do we help the department for it to seek that fellow officers are holding each other accountable, and for the community to see that that's the case, that things aren't allowed to move forward? Am I communicating that what you're at? And then also just I thought a really good suggestion is how to really help the department and officers be involved and connected to the community. How to really know and get to know the community that they're policing. Do they know the people that they're interacting with on a regular basis? And that those interactions don't become the only interactions that they have, don't become negative interactions that are happening there, so that dignity and respect can happen in all those interactions.
All right, thank you very much, sir. All right, for your final assignment, if you get out that, I think it's a purple sheet of paper. This is just like a 5-minute assignment, and we would ask that you would make some kind of commitment. You can look at all the principles now, and you can talk about it a little bit at your table, but we'd just like you to write down one thing that you can do to implement any of the 10 principles. And again, we're going to collect these. We're going to collect all those yellow sheets. And so take about 5 minutes and think about something that you can do. Go. Okay, I want to thank you for your attention tonight. The conversations look like that they were very, very good. And in a few minutes when you leave, we'll be collecting your sheets here at this exit that they have so worked out so well. But to conclude our evening, we're going to have a very brief signing ceremony, and the mayor is going to take charge of that. Mayor?
Thank you, Ed. And thank you to Bob Moore and Ed Wojcicki once again, and to the NAACP for bringing us together. So as you know, the City Council, the Urbana City Council, affirmed these principles in June, and we're going to seal the deal tonight by signing the 10 shared principles. And these principles are words on paper unless they are implemented in our policies, procedures, and practices. And that's what we are committing to tonight from here forward. So this is just the beginning. And I want to thank you for being here and helping us put some of these words into practices that we can follow up on, and we will continue to do that. So I would love to have Chief Seraphin and Minnie Pearson as representatives of the Urbana Police Department and the NAACP of Champaign County. Here's your pens.
Honor to do this tonight. It's been a long time coming, and we are pleased. Now, you think this is the end of it. It's not. It is not the end. This is a continued conversation throughout the community with our police officers and ourselves. And so whatever we can do as a people here tonight to keep this going, we need to do that. And I know that our trainers will be touching base with us from time to time to reassess what is going on, what's going well and what's not going well. And then what our weaknesses are, we will work on those. We are part of this community. We have to live together and we have to work together. So it's my pleasure to sign this.
There we go.
Nope, that wasn't me. I didn't know. What did you do then? I just come to the meeting. Somebody did something. You all get to sign that one as well. Well, I'm actually half Asian. I don't have any native. Some people mix up half Asian with people from native tribes. Of the, what was the Bering Strait? Used to have the. Yeah. You walk across.
So one of these posters will be hanging at City Hall, and the other one will be given to the NAACP of Champaign County, and you will find a place for it in your home. Okay.